Been a while then since I've had to use a sad for thumbnail in a video, but I feel unfortunately for this video is justified. It's in relation to a blog post we had for Marvel's Avengers and some changes to XP, how it will work and how you gain it going forward, and also some changes to cosmetics as well. Now I will be the first to admit further down the line these changes may actually benefit the game, but at the moment how they've been done and the fact that I think every change and every bit of communication that comes out for the game has to be a big win. You can't bring out something that maybe potentially be a bit divisive, which this certainly is. Everything has to be a big win to get people back on and playing again. So in this video I'll break down both of them. Now before we do go in and we break them down, if you're enjoying the content, take the time to hit the like, share and subscribe button and leave a comment below. That really does make a huge difference if you take time to leave a comment. It lets YouTube know you're engaged with the content and then it will promote it more. But let's jump in and we'll talk about the cosmetics first. That is the easier section to actually break down. So with this change here, I feel that's one that further down the line it almost will certainly be better, but how it's actually been done, not a fan of it at all. So let's work through this. So cosmetic rework will be reworking how players obtain certain cosmetic items with the goal of providing more player agency and clarity about how to obtain them by removing randomness from the process. Something I've always been a big fan of is adding more player agency in regards to loot and how it drops, but in regards to the costumes as well. So the core idea of this is a good one. It says currently many of the items are only obtainable through a random chance in strong boxes. I think that's generally your DNA chests, or in Chastity's store, that's the cosmetic vendor. We want to make sure that when you earn a cosmetic item it is something you had a choice in working towards. That does all sound good. So far so good. Now the first step of this is to temporarily disable the random cosmetic item drops in preparation for the change. This is absolutely terrible. If you're going to bring in a positive change, what you don't do in the short term is you don't bring in a negative change until at a later unspecified date. And bear in mind a lot of content in the game seems to be bugged and seems to get delayed for prolonged periods of time. We've been waiting on cloning labs for around about 4 or 5 months time. So this is really what I have a problem with, is you're going to temporarily disable anything, wait until you actually bring in the positive change before you go ahead and do this negative change, and that way they at least balance themselves out to an extent. But to continue reading here, players won't lose anything they've already earned, I would hope not. These items will be available again in places such as the cosmetic vendor once our store is reworked in future updates and will be purchasable with units. This will directly affect random chance cosmetic rewards for completing activities, so that's your missions and strong boxes. Again, I believe it's your DNA chests. In regards to your missions, it's your Mega Hive that would sometimes drop a pattern, so we're actually taking away something from the Mega Hive. And then it mentions numerous patterns will also be temporarily disabled from dropping and in some cases replaced with additional units that can be spent at the cosmetic vendor. Just not a fan of this taking anything away from us at the moment, and this is what it's doing. Just to finish up, the cosmetic vendor will still be open while we work on updating the functionality. The following outfits and nameplates will remain in the cosmetic vendor while the store undergoes the rework. I'm not actually going to run through the different costumes that will be available there, but essentially, as mentioned, what they should be doing, this could be a positive change further down the line, but what they should be doing is wait until they actually bring in the new system before they disable the old one. It's really disappointing that they're doing it this way, and hopefully they will go back on it. But let's have a look now and let's talk about the XP changes. So we now move on to the XP changes, and there really is a lot more to this. So since we launched last September, our balance team has been evaluating the XP curve for leveling 1 to 50. There is no curve, it's a flat amount, and we'll be making some changes to address 2 core issues. The first one being the current XP curve isn't really a curve at all, so they have acknowledged that at least. In most RPGs, the amount of XP you need to level up increases as you gain levels in a curve, but our system is a straight line. That is entirely true, and the vast majority of RPGs I've played, it takes longer at later levels to actually level up. It says this has led to pacing issues, such as skill points currently being rewarded too fast, which may be confusing and overwhelming to new players. This is the only real rationale I can see within this particular page here as to why they've made the changes. No other positive rationale that's offered. And it says we want each decision to invest in a skill or heroic to be more meaningful. Now, The big issue with this is that when you have an XP curve, so what happens is at later levels it will take longer to level up. Now generally that will be tied in with a curve in relation to the power of the skills that you'll be unlocking. So you'll think of a general action RPG style game where you'll, at the start, you'll level up pretty quick, you'll unlock relatively weak skills. As you get towards the later levels where it takes longer to level up, you unlock more powerful skills that feel more meaningful. Now the way the skill tree unlocks work in Marvel's Avengers is it's either level 15 or 20, I can't remember off the top of my head, and all my characters are fully leveled to test it, but it's either level 15 or 20, you have access to the entire trees. Now you won't be able to complete them, but what you can do from that point, less than halfway through the leveling process, is you can then start to put your points into the more powerful abilities. So what you're going to do, you actually want to put your points into the more powerful abilities earlier. So with the XP curve changing, what will happen at later levels, it will take longer to actually go up in a level, but what you'll be doing is by that point you will have picked all your preferential skills, so you'll have the weaker skills actually left. So it's the opposite of what RPGs are doing, where it takes longer to level up to get better skills. With this system, as long as you've picked your skills correctly, it'll be taking longer to level up and you'll be getting arguably weaker skills as well. So that is the first issue I have, so let's move on to the second part of this. So it says, based on these issues, we'll be increasing the amount of XP needed to level up, starting from around level 25. This amount will increase the closer you get to level 50, so that it will take longer to reach higher levels and will only affect a character level, not power level. If you already have level 50 characters, which is the current maximum, this won't affect you. If you have a character who isn't level 50 and want to speed up their progress, take the time to do this before the update in March the 18th. It then mentions that, do note, due to a bug we discovered, players could level characters at a blistering pace if they had multiple high level characters. We intend to fix this issue once Clint arrives. So what this essentially means, they're saying that it will take more XP from levels 25 onwards, but if you're someone that's been keeping up with the game and you've had all your characters up to level 50 so far, going from level 1 to 25 will be a nerf in comparison to what you're used to as well. So the last character that was released was Kate Bishop. Yes, it was very quick to actually level her up, but once you've done that, you still had to do the leveling of the gear, which is the true proper end game. But what's going to happen then with this change when Clint comes out, leveling him from level 1 to 25, which they're saying shouldn't really be changed, it will still be a lot slower due to the bug we had there. So essentially levels 1 to 50, it's going to be slower to level. Now the problems I have with this is the fact that heroes are much more fun at later levels. You play a level 1 4, you play a level 54, the difference is just night and day. It's almost like a different game. I've also mentioned the fact that the true in-game grinding the game is actually gear. We still need to do that. We still need to go up to 150 gear, which means we'll probably need to do the Day of the Mains. But it just means that when we're actually doing this, the gear grind will take the same amount of time, but we'll have access to less skills while we're actually doing it, because it's going to take longer to get those skills. So yeah, that's another issue I have with that. So overall, two pretty big issues I have with it. What I would like to see, because I don't want to come in and just moan about a system and not provide any solution, is what I think they should do. Yes, fix the bug in regards to the multiple heroes, up in the pace of how you actually leveled, but don't change the XP gain from that point. If you're going to do it, make it a very slight curve, if anything. And then, with players being able to level up to level 50 relatively quickly still, introduce some kind of system similar to the Paragon system in Diablo, so once you do hit level 50, you'll still actually be gaining something. An idea I had before was in regards to the comics you get off of your stats. I feel that system is massively underused. So let's say, for example, you'll hit level 50, maybe a little bit longer than it takes at the moment, and then what happens is you start to get currency for comics, and you can go in and buy individual comics. So if you think, I want my roster to be more focused on the defensive side of things, you can buy comics that relate to defensive stats. On the more offensive side, you can maybe focus on crit rate instead. So yeah, that's the changes. As mentioned, further down the line, who knows, maybe they will work out better, but I said it earlier on in the video and I'll repeat it again. At the moment, everything has to be a huge win for the game. We can't have any changes made that are potentially divisive or potentially in the short term they may be bad for players, such as the cosmetic change, but better later down the line. Everything has to be better as soon as possible. But let me know what you think about all this in the comments below, and thanks for tuning in. Stay safe and I'll see you all again soon.